My name is Marcus, and I'm sharing the story of my best friend, Michael Carter, and what happened after his son, Jamal, was attacked by a police officer in our Atlanta neighborhood last summer. Michael's a civil rights attorney, a man who's spent 20 years fighting for justice in courtrooms across Georgia. His son, Jamal, is a bright, athletic 16-year-old with dreams of becoming an engineer. On a sunny afternoon in July 2024, Jamal was walking home from basketball practice when Officer Derek Holt, a veteran with a history of complaints, targeted him in a way that would change their lives and our community forever. What Michael did next wasn't just about protecting his son. It was about exposing a system that let this happen and making sure it couldn't happen again. Michael and his wife, Lisa, raised Jamal and his younger sister, Kayla, in a quiet, diverse suburb just outside Atlanta. Michael's work kept him busy, taking on cases of police misconduct, workplace discrimination, and systemic inequality. He was known for his calm demeanor, sharp intellect, and ability to turn a courtroom into a stage for truth. Jamal, like his dad, was thoughtful and driven, the kind of kid who'd spend hours tinkering with robotics kits or leading his team on the basketball court. He knew about his dad's work, knew the world wasn't always fair to kids who looked like him, but at 16, he was still just a teenager, not expecting to become a target. That day, Jamal was walking home from the community center, wearing a t-shirt and gym shorts, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He was a block from home when Officer Holt's patrol car pulled up beside him. Holt, in his early 40s, had been with the Atlanta PD for 15 years and had a file full of complaints, mostly from Black and Latino residents, that never seemed to lead to discipline. He stepped out of his car, hand on his holster, and called out to Jamal. "Hey, kid, stop right there." Jamal stopped, confused but polite. "Yes, sir," he said, keeping his hands visible. Michael had taught him how to handle police encounters. Stay calm, don't argue, keep your hands in sight. Jamal followed those rules to the letter. Holt didn't waste time with pleasantries. "You match the description of a suspect in a theft," he said, his tone accusing. "Empty your backpack." Jamal frowned. "Sir, I was just at basketball practice. I haven't done anything. Can you tell me what's going on?" Holt's face hardened. "Don't get smart with me. Empty it now." His hand stayed near his gun, and his voice carried an edge that made it clear he wasn't asking. Jamal set his backpack down and started unzipping it, but before he could open it fully, Holt grabbed his arm, twisted it behind his back, and pushed him to the ground. Jamal's face hit the sidewalk, and Holt's knee pressed into his back. "Stop resisting," Holt shouted, even though Jamal wasn't moving. A small crowd had gathered. Neighbors, passers-by, some pulling out their phones to record. Jamal, scared but trying to stay calm, said, "I'm not resisting, sir. Please, I didn't do anything." Holt ignored him, cuffing Jamal's wrists tightly enough to leave marks. A neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, a retired teacher, called out, "He's just a kid. Let him go." But Holt didn't budge. He radioed for backup, claiming he had a resisting suspect. By the time another officer arrived, Jamal was still pinned, his cheek pressed against the hot pavement, humiliated and terrified. Michael was at his law office downtown when his phone buzzed with a call from Mrs. Jenkins. "Michael, you need to get home now," she said, her voice shaking. "The police have Jamal on the ground. They're saying he stole something." Michael's heart sank, but he didn't panic. He grabbed his briefcase, told his assistant to cancel his meetings, and drove home, his mind racing. He'd spent years defending clients against police misconduct, but this was his son. When he arrived, he saw Jamal cuffed, sitting on the curb, Holt standing over him. The second officer, a younger man named Torres, looked uncomfortable but wasn't intervening. A crowd of about 20 people watched, some still recording. Michael approached, his voice steady but firm. "Officer, I'm Michael Carter, Jamal's father. What's happening here?" Holt barely glanced at him. "Your kid's a suspect in a theft. He resisted, so we detained him." Michael's eyes narrowed. "What theft? Where's your evidence? And why is my son in cuffs on the ground?" Holt smirked. "We got a call about a black male, 16 to 18, stealing from a store nearby. He fits the description." Michael didn't flinch. "That's not evidence." That's a vague description that could apply to half the kids in this neighborhood. Uncuff him now, and let's talk. Holt bristled, stepping closer. You don't tell me how to do my job. Back off or you're next. Michael held his ground. He knew the law, knew his rights, and knew Holt was out of line. Officer Holt, I'm a civil rights attorney. I know you're required to provide specific articulable facts for detention. You haven't. Uncuff my son, or I'll have your badge under review by tomorrow. The crowd murmured, and Torres shifted uncomfortably. Holt, sensing the eyes on him, hesitated but didn't back down. He's staying cuffed until we clear this up, he said. Michael pulled out his phone, dialed his colleague at the ACLU, and put the call on speaker. Hey, Sarah, I've got an officer here detaining my 16-year-old son without cause. I need you to start pulling Holt's file, badge number 4729, and prep a complaint for unlawful detention and excessive force. He kept his eyes on Holt, who looked rattled for the first time. Torres stepped in, whispering something to Holt, who reluctantly uncuffed Jamal. Jamal stood, rubbing his wrists, his face a mix of relief and anger. Michael put a hand on his shoulder. You okay, son? Jamal nodded, but his eyes were wet. I didn't do anything, Dad. I was just walking home. I know, Michael said. We're going to fix this. That night, Michael didn't sleep. He sat at his desk, reviewing the videos neighbors had sent him, each one showing Holt's aggression and Jamal's compliance. He filed a formal complaint with the Atlanta PD's Office of Professional Standards, requesting a full investigation. But he didn't stop there. Michael knew one complaint wouldn't be enough, not with Holt's history of skating by on warnings. He called a meeting with local activists, community leaders, and other attorneys he'd worked with over the years. They met at his house, crowding the living room, and Michael laid out his plan. This isn't just about Jamal, he said. It's about every kid who's been profiled, every family who's been terrorized by officers like Holt. We're going to expose him, and we're going to push for systemic change. Over the next week, Michael worked tirelessly. He gathered statements from witnesses, including Mrs. Jenkins and a store clerk who confirmed no theft had been reported that day. He obtained Holt's personnel file through a public records request, revealing a pattern of complaints, racial profiling, excessive force, verbal abuse, dating back a decade. Most had been dismissed or resulted in minor discipline. Michael also reached out to local media, sharing the videos and Jamal's story, but he insisted on framing it as a broader issue, not just a personal grievance. The story broke on a local news station, with footage of Holt pinning Jamal playing on a loop. The headline, Officer Attacks Black Teen, Father Fights Back, went viral, spreading across social media. Community groups organized protests outside the police station, demanding Holt's suspension and broader reforms. Michael spoke at one rally, Jamal at his side. My son could have been another statistic, he said to the crowd. But we're not going to let that happen. We're demanding accountability, not just for one officer, but for a system that protects him. The pressure worked. Within days, Holt was placed on administrative leave, and the department announced an independent review of the incident. Michael didn't let up. He filed a federal lawsuit against Holt and the city, alleging civil rights violations, and worked with activists to push for a civilian oversight board with real power to discipline officers. He also started a mentorship program for Black teens, teaching them how to navigate police encounters and pursue careers in law or advocacy. Jamal, inspired by his dad, began speaking at schools, sharing his story to empower other kids. Holt's investigation didn't take long. The body cam footage, witness statements, and lack of evidence for a theft charge painted a clear picture. He was fired 2 weeks later, and the district attorney opened a criminal investigation for assault. The lawsuit is still pending, but Michael's team is confident it'll set a precedent for holding officers accountable. For Jamal, the incident was a turning point. He struggled with anxiety for weeks, haunted by the memory of being pinned to the ground. Michael and Lisa got him into counseling, and he leaned on his robotics projects to cope. But he also found strength in speaking out, becoming a voice for other teens. Michael, meanwhile, became a local hero, though he'd be the first to say he's just a dad doing what's right. The neighborhood hasn't forgotten. People stop Michael at the grocery store to thank him, and Jamal's basketball teammates look up to him now, not just as a player but as someone who stood tall. The city council is debating the oversight board, and Michael's mentorship program has grown, with dozens of kids signed up. What started as a father's fight for his son has become a movement, one that's still growing, still pushing, still demanding change. As for me, I've watched Michael take on tough cases my whole life, but this was different. This was personal. He didn't just fight for Jamal. He fought for every kid, every family, every community that's been hurt by a broken system. And he's not done yet. That's the Michael I know, the one who leaves you speechless not with anger, but with action.